Picture two people, same age, both 25, both just landed their first real job, $52,000 a year. Same city, same rent, same Netflix subscription. One of them, let's call him Marcus, buys a used Honda Civic for $8,000. Cash. He puts $400 a month aside every single month. He cooks most nights. His apartment is nothing fancy, but every month, quietly, he does the same boring thing. The other one, let's call him Tyler, leases a brand new Audi A4, $620 a month. He figures he'll get serious about money when he makes more. He eats out, he travels. His Instagram looks great. Fast forward 40 years. Marcus is sitting on over $1.7 million. Tyler is working a part-time job at 65. Not because he wants to, but because he has to. Same starting salary, same city, same everything. So what actually happened between those two lives? Here's the thing most people get wrong about wealth. They think it's about how much you earn. But research after research tells a different story. Wealth, at least the quiet, lasting kind, tends to come down to a handful of decisions made in your mid-20s. Decisions that feel completely insignificant in the moment, but over 40 years, they compound into two completely different lives. And here's what makes this fascinating from a purely behavioral standpoint. Most people don't end up financially struggling at 65 because they were reckless or irresponsible. They end up there because nobody ever showed them what the math actually looks like before it was too late to change it. That's what this video is about, not advice, just the math, just the patterns, and what the data shows. A study published in the Journal of Financial Planning found something that most people find genuinely shocking when they first hear it. Someone who starts setting money aside at 25 versus 35, contributing the exact same total dollar amount, ends up with nearly 2.5 times more money by the time they reach retirement age. Same money, 2.5 times the outcome, just from timing. Fidelity Investments, which manages retirement accounts for millions of Americans, published data showing that the average 65-year-old in the U.S. has around $87,700 saved for retirement. For context, financial planners generally suggest you need somewhere between 10 to 25 times your annual expenses to retire comfortably. $87,700 doesn't cover most people's first 3 years. Now, this video isn't here to tell you what to do with that information. But understanding why this gap exists, that's where it gets interesting. Chapter 1. The Savings Rate Gap. Why starting early changes everything. Here's a concept called compound interest. And if you've heard it before, stick with me, because most explanations miss the part that actually matters. If Marcus sets aside $400 a month starting at 25 and that money grows at 7% annually, which is roughly the historical average annual return of the S&P 500 over the past century, according to data from NYU's Stern School of Business by age 65, that $400 a month has grown to over $1 million. Now, Tyler does the same thing. Same $400 a month, same 7%. But he starts at 35. At 65, Tyler has around $490,000. Same discipline, same rate, a $570,000 difference from a single decade. That's not an opinion or a recommendation, that's just how exponential math works. Time is the variable that most people don't realize they're spending. Chapter 2. The interest side of the equation. Paying it versus earning it. Here's a pattern that shows up repeatedly in financial research. The average American household carries around $6,500 in credit card debt at an average interest rate of roughly 20% APR, according to Federal Reserve data. That means for every dollar they try to grow on one side, they're losing a significant portion of it on the other side, quietly, automatically, every month. Economists describe this as being on the wrong side of the interest equation. You're either collecting interest or paying it, and most people switch sides without ever realizing it happened. Again, this isn't financial advice. What you do with debt is entirely your own decision, and everyone's situation is different. But understanding this dynamic is something that a surprising number of adults were simply never taught. Chapter 3. Lifestyle Inflation. The psychological trap that resets everything. There's a well-documented psychological phenomenon called hedonic adaptation. The idea is simple. Humans adjust to new levels of comfort extremely quickly. A raise that feels exciting in January feels completely normal by April. The new apartment that felt luxurious in year 1 feels ordinary by year 2. The financial consequence of this is what researchers call lifestyle inflation, the tendency for spending to rise in direct proportion to income, leaving the savings rate unchanged no matter how much someone earns. Studies on high-income earners consistently show that income alone is a poor predictor of wealth. There are people earning $300,000 a year who are financially fragile, and people who earned $50,000 their entire careers who retired comfortably. The gap almost always comes back to whether spending grew as fast as income. Chapter 4. The Emergency Fund Gap. When one bad day wipes out years of progress. The Federal Reserve asked thousands of Americans a simple question. If something unexpected came up and you needed $400 right now, could you cover it? Nearly 4 in 10 said no, not $4,000, just $400. And this wasn't just people who were struggling. A lot of them had jobs, had cars, had a life that looked completely fine from the outside. They just had nothing sitting behind the scenes to catch them when something went wrong. Here's why that matters in the long run. Imagine Tyler's car breaks down at 28, repair bill $2,000. He doesn't have a buffer, so it goes on the credit card. Now he's paying 20% interest on top of everything else. Whatever small amount he'd managed to put away, gone to cover the gap. Marcus had the same car problem. He paid it, moved on. His long-term savings never got touched. That difference, a financial cushion versus no cushion, is one of the most consistent patterns researchers find when they study why two people with similar incomes end up in completely different places by retirement. One bad month can undo years of progress. And for a lot of Americans, that one bad month comes more than once. Chapter 5. The Social Pressure Variable. Why visible wealth and actual wealth diverge. This might be the most underrated factor in the whole conversation. At 25, spending patterns are heavily shaped by social environment, peer groups, social media, the unspoken pressure to signal success through visible consumption, cars, apartments, clothes, travel. Morgan Housel, author of The Psychology of Money, makes an observation that's worth thinking about. Most visible wealth is actually borrowed. The person with the impressive car might be leasing it. The luxury lifestyle might be carrying significant debt behind the scenes. Research on actual high-net-worth individuals, people with genuine, lasting wealth, shows a consistent pattern. They tend to underconsume relative to their net worth. They don't look rich, they just quietly are. The gap between looking wealthy and being wealthy is one of the most consistent findings in behavioral finance, and it starts widening, or narrowing, in your mid-20s. Now, before I wrap this up, a few important things. Everything in this video is for educational purposes only. The numbers, the studies, the patterns, they're real, they're cited, but they don't account for your specific situation. Everyone's financial picture is different. If any of this sparked something for you, the most valuable thing you can do is go deeper on your own. This video is just the map. What you do with it is entirely up to you. Remember Marcus and Tyler from the beginning? The honest truth is, Tyler isn't a cautionary tale about bad character or laziness. He's just someone who never got to see the math before the math made its decision for him. And that's the thing about compound interest. It works in both directions. It builds wealth quietly if you're on the right side, and it quietly erodes it if you're not. It doesn't care about your intentions or your income. It only responds to time and behavior. What's fascinating, and a little uncomfortable, is that the decisions that determine which version of that story you live aren't dramatic. They're not made in a single moment. They're made in moments that feel insignificant. When you choose between the version of life that looks good today and the one that quietly builds your future. The math doesn't judge. It just keeps running. If this changed how you see things, write it down in the comments. Share it with someone who's still early. And if you want more like this, hit subscribe button. If it was worth your time, leave a like. See you next time.